outside of their own marketplace. And that's something that at least the three of us have pretty good perspective on. Jeff's one of those, dealers who doesn't know what the hell's going on outside of Maryland.
True.
Well, again, you live through the lens of survival of what's going on in your store, right? And so if you're just like trying to get through the blocking and tackling every single day, and this industry, you work such long hours anyway, you're just digesting minute amounts of things that are going on outside in the real world. And none of that tends to be rosy these days. So a lot of people are just blocking it up.
I don't want to know what's going outside of my dealership.
Literally, I'm not watching. Like, if I get an hour of free time, I'm going to spend it with my kids or family or something. I'm not turning on the news.
Really?
Yeah, I consume enough news during the day at work. I've always got Tim Pool in the background playing, or Ruben, or I try to get news from as many different sources, and that way I can get both sides of the story as much as possible. But I stay off the main media news sources. Too many agendas, no matter if you're left or right or in the middle. I like a lot of those independent sources.
I've actually been finding myself getting a lot of news through Twitter.
Oh yeah.
Following like journalists that are like on the ground covering some of these things. Like
that's the worst news outlet in the world. No.
Starts the debate. Let's kick off right there.
Yeah. How about let's throw in some Facebook for a moment here? And
well,
I was just more thinking based
you can't
on
post anything on Facebook, it gets taken down.
That's right.
I was going to say maybe the best thing about Facebook right now is Refresh Friday. You get to come in here and not get any politics. Thanks for taking us
at this moment. Here we are talking about it.
Yeah. So who are these guys?
Oh, two handsome studs.
So Ron Andrews and Darren Haygood come from. Ron, are you at DealerInspire or Cars.com or the whole bang?
I cross over a little bit between both, but focus mostly on DealerInspire.
Nice. And then Darren, you're definitely jumping all around.
Yep. Director of janitorial services here. I'm in charge of clean up on aisle 3. That's my job.
At least it's not HR or PR.
That's right. Don't want to.
I wouldn't want to be in those positions right now.
But Ron works for us and oversees all of our efforts in growth for major accounts at DealerInspire. So he's awful shy with regards to talking about himself, but he's really helped propel the growth and the adoption of our major account ecosystem. So does a great job and spends a lot of time actually in dealerships talking with clients. And so it's got a really good pulse as to what's going on out there in the space.
That's great.
Yeah, we're stoked to have both of you.
Yeah, thank you for having us.
Yeah, glad to be here.
Darren's getting his veteran trophy after this show.
Great.
So I think there's a lot to talk about today. I don't know. You guys have some announcements, some things. Do y'all want to kick off with that or save it to the end, leave everyone in suspense?
Well, it's a known thing, I think, that's out there, but just this past week, both Honda and Nissan announced that they were opening up certified website provider programs, and DealerInspire is fortunate enough to be in that list, that short list of both of those programs. Nissan already had a quasi program in place before, and they've just added to the approved certified vendor list within the Nissan program, but Honda has never had a program. And so this is the very first time, and they're one of the bigger, obviously, nameplates that's out there, and one of the last remaining that have moved into that space where there is a certified model. What's exciting and what's a bit different, I think, not to go on about those programs, because you can go on to the Honda digital site, and I'm sure you guys can share out those links that we can give you for dealers to check the information out and all the different providers and the different features and packages that are there. But what's different about that program, unlike any of the others that we're in, is that they've bundled together and really trying to get dealers to understand it's not about buying a website. And they're being very careful not to call it the certified website program, because they've bundled together for the main 4 providers that are in the program: website, SEO, and digital advertising, so that they really get the opportunity, rather than, distributing that out to 3 or 4 different providers, that you get uniformity and the connected tissue of making certain that the content that you're delivering, the ads that you're running, all connect through to that in-dealership website experience. And then ultimately that transforms, which is a lot of what we're going to talk about today. How do you bring that website experience into the showroom, right? How can you actually come through on the delivery experience side of that and connect that bridge across from online into the store? So it's exciting for us. Honda and Automotive Data Solutions, ADS, is actually facilitating the program for them, for Honda. But Honda's got a great brand relationship with their dealers, and so we're super excited to be a part of it.
What do you think took Honda so long to get on board with something like this?
I think they have done a pretty good job of gaining adoption for whatever they want to do as a brand. They shared with us that anytime Honda announces something, without having to put in firm deadlines and restrictions and saying you have to do this, or there's going to be some sort of penalty that you won't get inventory or co-op like that, they gain about 90% adoption of anything that they roll out. So they've got a very amiable dealer body that follows through on what Tier 1 is trying to push across. But I just think, again, why the now is because they see that it's not just about throwing a website up there. And I think the COVID-19 situation and this pandemic has, accelerated the need for brands to understand that we've got to have a better connected experience for our shoppers, rather than all of these disjointed messages that are out there. And in current environment, when budgets are so, Jeff, you're in your store looking at your bottom line probably now more than ever. And if we having 6 meetings with 6 different vendors to manage these different facets of your business is just not very efficient.
That's true. Very true.
And listen, and you can still do that. I want to be very clear. You can do that in the Honda program. They've got an a la carte offering as well. But they put some bundled discounts together to try to drive to a greater majority of the body to say there are efficiencies that you can gain, and there is continuity of content and message when you do it all through one shop.
Yeah. Efficiency on the cost side of things, as well as just connecting the strategy, right? I think that's the key, is just making sure that instead of having all these different pieces, all these different partners that are oftentimes tough to kind of bring all together to create a cohesive message, create a cohesive strategy, really encouraging dealers to lean in a little bit more to some key partners and just help carry that through from start to finish.
Well, congratulations on winning that business, guys.
Yeah, that's big news.
Yeah, we're excited. Thank you. Appreciate it. Thanks for letting us take a little bit of time here at the front end to kind of kick that off. So it's exciting times for us. It actually opens up. The announcement went out last week, but the official enrollment opens up, I think, June the 22nd or 23rd. So that's when the actual portal URL will open up where dealers can formally enroll.
Yeah, we'll add some links over in the forums and everything, just so that's out there available.
Okay, cool. Thanks.
Yeah, and I do see Jake is in the comments. So Jake, if you want to throw anything in the comments, go right for it. Yeah, so you brought up COVID and how that's really accelerated the manufacturer's thinking. That's obviously accelerated the dealer body's thinking on things. But also, from a national perspective, you've been able to see a lot of different marketplaces. And we've talked about a few times on the show, the vast differences maybe between Florida and New Jersey, for example, or, Southern California, Northern California. Is there anything that you guys have seen has really been very eye-opening for you?
Yeah, I think, right off the bat, to your point, it's been interesting to see how different dealers in different parts of the country have had to adapt in really unique ways. Some haven't necessarily had to change all that much. Others have had to completely rethink their business model and the way that they're they're moving units, right? If you look at states where you can only sell cars online for some period of time, I think it was really challenging for some dealers to kind of scramble and figure out, like, how are we going to keep this ship on the right path? So for us, it's actually been really inspiring to have our dealers leaning in with us a little bit more, sharing some of the enterprise level like insights that we've seen across the different regions, and really helping them dive into their technology base a little bit more to help them kind of weather the storm.
Yeah, and you mentioned it, Alex, like the differences between Florida and other parts. You know, I still live down here, and Florida, we screw up elections in Florida. We don't know how to operate in a pandemic. We get it all wrong, man. Like, so when they said, you know, stay at home and everything else, people are still out at Starbucks every single day. Like, so, you know, I've got a lot of good friends that are in the industry down here, and throughout this, it is, to your point, it's been very interesting, the real world of consumer behavior and how they're interacting in a dealership, versus the perception and the instruction and kind of their internal feelings of like, well, should I be out doing these things? So whether you're in a state in the North or the Northeast or out in California where things are very, very starkly different, or you're in a southern state like Florida or Texas where it's just moderately different, I think for now and always, COVID-19 is going to change the perception and maybe finally break the mold in our industry that I don't think a consumer looks forward to coming in and spending 3 hours in a car dealership on a Saturday. They just know that it is available for them to get transparent answers and information online so that they do not have to go through that traditional old school process, so to speak. And then when they come into the store, the dealers that are going to win are the ones that can make sure that they can pick up exactly where the customer left off. And there is so many steps and links along that chain. We've talked about it a lot, you know, and we sit there when we go to these conferences, Alex, and you talk about the things that a dealer needs to do, but this is probably the most important learning that we've gained from dealers going through this, through COVID. You have to have, like, software by itself is not going to fix any of these problems for you. And I don't care whether you pick our tool or you pick somebody else. If you don't lean in to make sure that you have an online selling strategy and what you do with the lead and how, whether you're treating it as a lead or whether you're treating it as a deal, right? All of those parts and pieces are instrumental into making certain that you've got success as you move forward. And even as we come out of this, and let's, you know, knock on wood, things get back to normal sooner rather than later. I think, again, now a consumer has the tools, even if you're not doing the 100% contactless delivery to their home or office, you've got a way to now make the delivery experience minutes rather than hours. So even if they're coming in on the quote unquote appointment, you can facilitate that experience and make it so much more about the features of the car and about the experience of the loyalty program that you have at the dealership, all of those key facets that you've just skipped all of the minutia of negotiation and an hour and a half waiting to get into the finance office, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera.
Well, that's what we keep hearing, you know, a lot of different articles out there, and you know, even on DealerRefresh, you know, dealers need to bring the showroom online. But what exactly does that mean? And, you know, what's your ideas on how a dealership should maybe go about doing that?
Yeah, that one I love, Jeff, right? Because I don't know of anybody that thinks, like, if you think like a consumer, no one wants to bring the showroom online. Because I don't know of anybody that's like, can I please bring that 3-hour experience and bring it into my website? So, right? Let's make sure that we create a website where I can't really get a straight answer, and it takes, like, somebody has to keep going back and forth, and you know, I have to be there in person in order to get a real number on things. So we've actually started to flip that. And we actually believe, especially as things have changed in the current environment, we think you've got to bring your website into your showroom. We think we have to bring the online experience into the store. How do you turn your store into more of like that Apple Genius Bar type of experience, so that the numbers and the information that you do online is the same as when you come into the store? But it's beyond that, like I was talking about. The technology and the tools that you use online should be the same as what you do in the store. Now, whether that's on a phone, whether that's on an iPad, whether that's on a kiosk, like, there's an investment that dealers need to make so that there is connective tissue there. Software, whether you use our tools and solutions of digital retailing or someone else, try to make sure that the look and feel of what you surface to the customer online is the same thing they would log into in the store.
Yeah, that's definitely a key point.
Can I add to that with Darren? Because that's like, there's a huge thing that is being discovered out there. In my opinion, it's a huge thing. But when you think of a consumer's journey through their online research process, they usually don't hit the dealership until they've gotten to a point of confusion or frustration. Um, and that's because if you try to figure out how much this car is going to cost you outside of the dealership's world, it's impossible. Like, what are my payments? You go to the manufacturer's website, it's $800. You go to the dealer's website, it's $300. An ad's telling you it's $100. It's like, what is my payment on this car? And so you hit that point, and then when you start working with the dealer, you're typically coming in through maybe an ad, and that's one version of how a number is being delivered to them. Then they're going to a website, and that's another version of how a number is being delivered to them. And then you might communicate with somebody ahead of time. They'll send you an email. And if you're lucky in the email, you might have somebody who took a picture of a worksheet and sent that over to them, or at least typed a price into the comments or something. God forbid they'll give you a payment. And then lastly, when you actually go to the dealership, you see the worksheet. So every time a number is presented differently, that's a mental gymnastic the customer has to jump through to try and figure out how it matches up to the last one they saw. It's frustrating. So to Darren's point, if you show them the same thing every time, at least the same UI, it's less gymnastics they have to jump through. And then, if you're using the same calculation engine the whole way through, you're showing them the same numbers the whole time too. That also makes it even better. And we've heard of dealers who are doing this and using a single method to do it, whether it's a digital retailing tool or even just using the DMS and doing hard math and putting payments on their website or whatever it is. And they're closing customers down when they actually get to the showroom side in under 10 minutes.
That's right.
I think you kind of illustrated it perfectly, right? Like, those gymnastics that you spoke of, like for me, I hear that and it's a lot of friction in the process of shopping for a car, engaging with the dealership, and actually working through the process of buying it, right? And I think one thing we've always been looking at over the last couple of years is how do we remove some of that friction? The current situation has kind of accelerated that in a lot of ways. And for me, it's really fascinating because I think it's allowing dealers to take a little bit of a different look as how they're displaying some of those things on their website and how they're carrying that through to their people. And I think the big thing that I've seen a lot of dealers lean into is training and making sure that all of their team members are really dialed in on what's happening in the digital side of things. And then where do they need to pick up once this person engages with the store or reaches out in some capacity, just to help carry that through and make it a really convenient and easy experience.
Yeah, Jeff, on that point, I'd love to get your feedback on this because we saw over the last 60 days, dealers across the 8,000 dealers that Cars works with across the country, franchise dealers, 250% increase in inbound inquiries. So quote unquote, internet leads coming in, a 250% increase. And so when Ron mentions talking about investing in training, when that amount of influx comes in, if you just take all of that increase in leads and throw it into your CRM lead follow-up machine, that is not going to deliver a very good consumer experience. And, I always like to say that if I were running a dealership today, if it was Haygood Motors, there would be no such thing as an internet department, a BDC with internet managers. There's no such thing as that anymore. Like if you work for me, you are an internet salesperson because that's the majority of where the funnel of traffic is coming in. And you have to know how to do exactly what we are doing here. You have to know how to have a conversation online in a virtual capacity and build some sort of connected trust. To your point, Alex, like the numbers you're seeing, let me walk you through it because when you come in, it's going to be exactly the same. You're going to work with me directly. And leveraging video, I know we're going to talk about that in a minute, but doing this like we're doing here to personalize that interaction so it's not just one-dimensional chats going back and forth. I think these are the things that if a dealer wants to get ahead, they've got to do these. These are the investments that they've got to make. But that's super easy to say. Like you can throw things like dealers need to invest in training. Well, what the hell does that mean? So like, Jeff, I'm seeing the computer that is behind you, right? That's on your desk.
Yeah.
It's not a Mac. It's a display primary computer. And I bet it doesn't have an embed video camera that's a part of that actual monitor. And that's probably most common in the actual equipment that is sitting around at dealerships. So,
Yeah, it was 2 years ago. I went out to Best Buy and I purchased webcams for all the salespeople's computers.
Right.
I don't know if they were ever used.
Kind of like all those iPads. We bought them years ago too.
Yeah, I really wanted to implement some type of one-to-one video rather than just using the phone or just, going out shooting a quick video and sending it. I wanted to incorporate something live. And I was looking at some one-off software services that weren't automotive related at the time. And, you end up getting, 30 other projects thrown at. And that was one that it dropped. We've got some older salespeople here. They just didn't want to adapt. So that really falls on what you're saying earlier. It's easy for a dealership. It's easy for us to sit back and go, dealerships need to train more, or dealerships need to figure out how to not have the BDC department or an internet sales department, which I hate the whole term internet sales. I've been saying that for 10 plus years. But it's really difficult finding the right employees to work the showroom floor that has all the savviness, understands the technology. And I think that's where a lot of dealerships struggle. I mean, there's still a lot of people in here in the industry that's been selling for a very long time. They've got their customer base. They do very well with their customers. But, they're going to kick and scream even to this day, trying to get them to understand, the difference, or really not so much of the difference between an internet sale and a typical showroom sale. So it's definitely still a struggle for dealerships. And I think it's more of a personnel issue.
Yeah, it certainly is. Like, that's the challenge we face. But, again, if I were to prioritize some of the things, and the impact of what's going on in our marketplace today, and I think we are far from out of it, because, another 30, 60, 90 days from now, there are still likely going to be 20 plus million people that don't have a job. Mm-hmm. And when we hit that, ditch there, that decline, the volume of purchases they don't have anywhere to go there. Like, I don't want to try to be a naysayer and forecast that that's the decline that is ahead of us, but it's likely that we are going to have to continue to work even harder in our industry to maintain profitability and to do the things that we need to do. So with that in mind, like, now is the perfect time to make certain that you are taking perhaps a renewed, fresh approach to making certain that your entire staff, and you mentioned it, like, even if you got old school guys, they all have one of these, and all of these have video capability on them. So whether you use, like, we've seen a huge increase in adoption in our conversations customer messaging platform, our chat tool, because it has live video chat as a part of the tool. You don't even have to pay anything extra for it, and it works through the app on the phone. So I don't have to even have like a webcam thing, because very few people are going to pick up their computer and go walk out to the lot, exactly to your point. So how do you seamlessly train and transfer that conversation from this onto a mobile device so that I can go walk around and show the customer a couple things about the car, or hand that conversation off to an F&I manager? Like I said, we're starting to really talk to our clients about it being an online deal, not a lead. And if you think about it in that context, you approach it differently. You just do.
Yeah, for sure. For sure. No, I like that.
One of the things that, I've been really inspired by is, like, our training team has actually been, one of the busiest, like, in our company over the last 90 days. And, Jeff, you made the point, like, you're looking for different software to, accomplish some of these things that it's going to take to be successful in this current, day and age. Right. But, the thing that's fascinating to me is when I talk to dealers, whether it be, just looking at the line items on their marketing budget or their technology investments, you often hear, like, they're only using 50% of that tool, right? And the reality, I think, is that there's an awful lot of things that they already are paying for, or already have, sort of in their toolbox, for lack of a better term, that they can tap into, and they can actually maximize, like, the abilities of some of those things. Like, as an example, like, messaging, right? It's a common theme that we've talked about throughout this conversation so far. I think chat and text is something that, as an industry, we just have to get better at. And every single platform that's out there, whether it be ours or one of our competitors, has these types of capabilities built in where you can really engage with a customer in a unique way and do live video and those types of things. It's just the reality is, I don't think a lot of dealers are tapping into that. And I think that's where the difference between having a partner and a vendor really sort of stands out, where you can lean in a little bit more and start to really look at them as that partner to educate and train and help develop your staff alongside of you to maximize those different bits of technology that are just what it's going to take to kind of push us through this current environment, and probably what the future is going to look like for the industry.
Well, I've definitely seen a lot of vendors step up to the plate, and we talk about maybe this has pushed this whole COVID thing has helped push dealerships a little bit further down the page. But I think it's also done that with the vendor side as well, because I've had quite a few vendors, all of a sudden they're testing out all these new products to help dealerships out. I've got a vendor that I'm always on the fence with, and every time I'm on the fence, they push something else out at me, and it's like, hey, what about this? Have you, we got this coming down the pipeline. We've got this new feature plugged in. I was like, God damn it. All right, I'm sticking around because that's I want to at least get the opportunity to give it a shot and see how it works out for us.
Yeah, it's forcing all of us. I mean, the champions within our company, Ron hinted at it, right, are the developers and the engineers that are continuing to think quickly and creatively about how to bring customer-facing tools and dealer-facing tools and solutions to market faster. And then the amazing team on the training department that continues to crank out content and video collateral and webinars that we're hosting almost every single day of the week to try to educate and lift our dealers' knowledge base with regards to what they can do to utilize our tools and solutions.
You brought up chat a moment ago, Ron. As so many dealers are taking on digital retailing solutions and going into it with the idea of, and I'm stereotyping, I don't know this for sure, but I'm just saying a lot of going into it with the idea that you just throw it on the website and all of a sudden sales will pop out. Yeah. But chat and some other things some are discovering that if you utilize those better, you'll get more people to pop out the other end of that digital retailing tool. Because it goes back to every customer needs to know that they're getting the best deal possible before they'll sign on the bottom line, right? And you've got to communicate with the dealer to figure that out. And are you guys seeing a big change in chat utilization and things of that nature?
Yeah, without a doubt. I think one of the things that's really fascinating is how customers are asking different types of questions. And a lot of it's related specifically to the deals that they're building out in digital retailing. It's one of the reasons why I really wanted to focus on that as a part of this conversation, is because if you have this tool on your website and it's getting a ton of engagement and people are building out deals and they're valuing their trade and they're comparing a lease to a finance and all these types of things, but then naturally they have a question that they need answered and they click that chat button and it's completely disconnected from the digital retailing experience, it just creates more friction in the process. And I think that's where, like, us looking to the future, like, we see more of an intersection between messaging and digital retailing being absolutely crucial, because everything needs to be seamlessly connected if we're really going to live up to the expectations that customers are going to have on the other side of this.
Yeah, the thing I'll add to that, Alex, is I think success, like if we're being honest with ourselves, most chat solutions and the process that you put behind it, whether you manage it at the store on your own or whether you're getting somebody to do managed chats for you and it goes into a BDC type of environment where they're following talk tracks and scripts to respond to customers. Success in that ecosystem is that chat turning into a lead, which turns into an appointment. And every single response is grounded and rooted in the fact of answer the least amount of questions possible to turn them into an appointment and get them into the store. And I think just fundamentally, that is the biggest difference, because we've seen this skyrocket and increase in engagement via chat. And the mindset, again, instead of thinking about leads and turning them into online deals, it's not a chat. You're actually having a live, it is your virtual showroom engagement that you're doing with your customer. And
walk-in.
Be fearless. It's a virtual walk-in. So be fearless with answering questions. Give them the information that they are looking for, because that is what's going to turn that into a deal and not just an appointment that's going to show up at the store.
Yeah, I've always, I hate it when you jump on a dealership chat and all they're going for is to go after the customer's information. And it really hate it whenever they use that. In case we get disconnected, can I go ahead and get your contact information? That drives me crazy. I've always taken the stance that, with chat, I want them, if we don't get their information, I'm not worried about it as long as we answered all their questions and we gave them a great experience, because that great experience via chat will most likely or hopefully turn into a walk-in. Now, unfortunately, you might not be able to track it, but we get so inundated with trying to track everything, every little touch point, attribution. But a lot of times, if you just do the right thing, you're going to get the right results afterwards.
Yeah, you got to put faith in giving trust and transparency.
Yeah.
If you do that, you will win.
Yeah.
And it can't just be, to your point, it can't just be an interactive lead form. If a customer asks a question, you can't always just default to, well, give me your contact info and I'll have somebody get back to you later, right? Like that person is on your website right now. They've looked at a number of vehicles. They found one they like. Maybe they're looking at an offer that they have some questions about. Like, you have an opportunity to really engage with them and give them a great experience right there in that moment. And every time that you say, you know what, I can't give you that answer, I'll have someone reach out to you later. Like, you're kind of breaking that experience. And I think that's a disconnect that we got to figure out. And part of that just goes back to what we were talking about, like just getting your salespeople a little bit more engaged on some of the tools that you already have, that you're already paying for, and just using those tools more effectively in your sales process.
Also be beneficial for any chat companies, because a lot of dealership outsource their chat. We do here. I'll jump in on, in the middle of a chat whenever I can. And of course, that the experience is always better for the customer once I'm on there. But I've really went out of my way to make sure that our chat provider answers all the questions. They know how to go through our service scheduling tool. They know how to utilize all of our plugins. And I've directed them in a way that's like, look, if this is our end goal with the chat, it's great, go after their information, but that's not the ultimate goal. The ultimate goal is to make sure they have a great experience. And a lot of times, if you give them that great experience, they're much more likely to give up that information, because they're like, wow, you're answering all my questions. This has been great. So then whenever you ask, but asking up front, and again, a lot of the third-party chat companies will do that if they're chatting on behalf of the dealership.
Well,
Just
Jeff,
flip that around.
you mentioned the great experience, and Darren touched on this earlier. But I think you can put it in a word, and it's a scary word for some dealerships. It's, just being blunt about it, but that word's transparency. The customer is looking for answers, and typically they're numbers. And there's still some managers out there that might be a little afraid that they're going to go shop the numbers.
Oh yeah, that happens all the time. Yeah, I mean, I witnessed that.
Alex, you said it a minute ago, right? You talked about the customer probably started on the manufacturer site, got a number, bounced around from that, and got to the actual tier 3, dealership franchise website, and they're dying for getting a straight answer. They're like, okay, this is the dealership, this is the place I'd like to do business with because of what you have in inventory or location or whatever those set of factors are. And if I then have a live person that I'm having a conversation with, what is the incentive to start jerking them around and giving them half-truths information? That doesn't make any sense. That is your moment and opportunity to provide clarity and continuity and build a premise of trust that this is how we do business here at the store. And you're right, there are going to be a subset that are like, listen, this is how we've done it, and we've done it this way through economic ups and downs, and we're going to continue doing it this way. And that's probably not the audience that is listening to us here live on Facebook, but they're out there, trust me, right? So the differentiators are, can you be fearless with transparency? That is it is a real thing, because there is a hesitation in our industry to do that. If you do it, this fun, amazing thing happens. You actually can make more money. Yep. And it's the complete inverse of what everybody thinks is going to happen. They think if you give up numbers and you are free with that information and you're detailed with that information, you're actually going to lose gross. And every single time when I do the analysis and I look at the PVR comparatives, It's always higher than what a quote unquote walk-in is at, and when you just bring them into the front door.
We used to call it the 2%ers.
Yeah.
This was long before there were 1%ers and all that stuff in the media, but we used to call it the 2%ers. And we always said to our sales managers when they were getting paranoid about somebody going to, ABC Toyota down the street was, well, 98% of people really aren't going to do that, and 2% will. So.
One thing that I've even realized about myself, and I think this rings true across many different industries and verticals, is people will usually pay more for a premium experience. And that's something that I think if I was a dealer right now, I would be really like looking at how do I create the most value and the absolute best customer experience, because you're going to sell more through it. And to Darren's point, you're going to make more money off of it. Time and time again, I see the dealers that are really dialed in and creating the most frictionless customer experience. They're getting the most gross profit on those deals. I mean, even I look at like I said myself, I haven't been to a grocery store in like 4 months. Like I'm paying a premium to have somebody pick up my groceries and drop them off, on the front step, right? And like hundreds of thousands of other people are doing that, right? And there's so many other examples of that. But it really, I think, is a testament to if you can build a really good customer experience, people will pay more for it, because in most cases, I don't know about you gentlemen, but for me, like some of the stuff I value the most is my time and convenience, right? And I think there's a lot of people out there like that. I think if we just make the process easy, it'll pay dividends.
No, I totally agree. I mean, I don't know who would disagree with that. We all pay. Most people are willing to pay, a premium for a better experience. So I just bought a few guns, and I know I could have gotten them cheaper online or went through somewhere else, but the gun shop right down the street from me is, I ended up knowing the owner, and just a great experience, step all the way through, did free training, everything. It's like, I didn't mind paying that extra $50 to $100.
Right. There's value there.
Yeah.
Chris Leslie is asking a good question here. What's an example of a really good customer experience that people are willing to pay more for?
That's a good question.
Yeah, that's a great question. So I think again, and that pay more is not thousands, it's usually hundreds, but that's always the delta difference in the average PVR versus, someone that you just drag through a long, egregious process. So, but it's the subject we just talked about. So Chris, and I think this, like if you can build we try to do so many things in advertising to differentiate what is going to make, why you would want to come to my dealership, and why you'd want to come to Jeff's dealership, right? But I have been out there for a while now saying if there is one common denominator that a consumer is looking for, is they already have a preconceived notion that the process is not going to be fun. Like this is what consumers think about buying a car. So if you can just make it faster, you win, right?
Yeah.
If you gave me just one message that I was going to really hone in on from what I'm doing offline to what I'm doing online to what I'm doing in the store, we are going to get you in and out through this process faster. And then now, if it actually can be enjoyable, well, then you really win. But even if it's terrible and it's faster terrible, great.
And the best way to do that is make sure that your showroom presence aligns with your online presence.
100%.
And there's synergies between those two.
We were doing a lot of talking about digital retailing around, and I've seen this because but when we were all out there traveling, and I'm a Marriott SPG guy, as Alex, but like when I would go to the hotel and you walk into the lobby, there's a little sign for the Bonvoy Elite, and like the little rope and the carpet that you go up to. And I know because of signage, which line I get into that's going to save me time. So why don't we do that in the car business, so that whether you use our solution or whether you use somebody else, when you walk into the front door, there is clear signage and identification to say, this is where you go for the VIP experience. This is where you go for the fast pass. This is where you log in to skip the line.
So we could have some parking spots out front, because I know after a test drive, we would always tell the customer, direct the customer over into the delivery lane. Let's get this car wrapped up for you. And if they is one of those mental challenges, if they actually park the car in that spot, you know, it was a good strong close. So maybe we can have some parking spots out front for express purchase of some sort.
Yeah, well, I've seen that. We've seen that in our industry. We've done an okay job outside the building, right? Because there's some things that we can do, but there was not. We're talking about the theme here of how do you bring that website experience into the showroom, where there are some very simple things that you can do in the showroom itself to identify to your consumer. If you have started this process online, if you've done more homework than someone else, whether you have an appointment or not, here's where you go. And I think it'd be interesting, to see that at a macro level for both sales and fixed operations, quite honestly.
Yeah.
There's just a way to, I think, to do a little better there.
Well, Chris was asking for an example. I mean, one of the easiest ones that I can think of is like pick up and drop off for service, right? Like, I mean, there's a lot of dealers I'm talking to, and they're realizing, wait a minute, like we can charge more for this, right? Like, we can have, there's a premium to be paid there. And I'm actually fascinated thinking about then how that could potentially weave into some of like the F&I offerings that maybe you're going through, like, prepaid maintenance, adding that on as a little like bonus there, saying, hey, you sign up for our prepaid maintenance packages. We're also going to do pickup and drop off, right? So, I mean, you literally carry that through as a value prop from the very beginning of the sales process. You make more money on the backside, and then you also find a way to monetize that down the road in the fixed ops department.
Great.
Yeah, we added something in the beginning of all this. The owner reached out, and we've got sort of what Hyundai had, the Hyundai Assurance plan that they used to have. And I think it's called, well, what we're using is called Walkaway. It's the same company. So, it's basically when you purchase or finance a car through us, through the dealership, you get $7,500 of negative equity insurance. So if something happens within that first year, you're pretty much taken care of, as long as you have the proof that you lost your job, or you've had some type of experience that's preventing you from making that car payment, and that's definitely really helped us out. And again, that's a premium feature, but it is funny because, speaking to a lot of the dealerships and having the Refresh Friday shows, you're talking about pickup and delivery for service customers. It's like a lot of these things, just, being at a Benz store, a lot of these things are stuff that we've been doing for years. Yeah. We've been doing deliveries and pickup, remote pickups, and it's just what we do at a high-end dealership all the time.
What do you do for the guy who buys the six-figure Mercedes, Jeff?
If we know the customer pretty well, their trunk gets stocked with all their favorite alcohol.
Now that's service.
That is my shopping experience there, if I've ever heard one, right? That's fantastic.
I mean, it depends on, do we make any money on the car? But yeah, we'll take a percentage of it. And, we've got quite a few customers that we do that for, that come in every, 2 or 3 years and spend some big money on a $150,000, $200,000 vehicle. Their trunk gets filled up with all their favorite vodkas and beer and tequilas. And
Well, I think you just answered Chris Leslie's question. What's an example of good experience?
There you go.
That is a good experience for sure.
There was something that DealerRater had with cars.com where, and I'm sort of going off the path here, but that was something that I always really liked, was the fact that the salesperson on cars.com can choose, or the customer can choose which salesperson they would like to work with based on their reviews and all that good stuff. How's that going? Do you have any data around that to show? And have you seen a spike in maybe people engaging with that piece on cars.com since all this went down?
Yeah, the data there is exponentially growing, and the actual shown appointment rate is still hovering north of 80%. So if they pick the salesperson that they want to work with, that lead turns into a shown appointment 80%, greater than 80% of the time. That is and again, because I know that I actually have an appointment coming in for someone who is like, that lead gets keyed to the Ron Andrews at the store. Ron is going to treat that like a personal referral that's coming in. So Ron, rather than just saying, hey, I've got Darren coming in, he's going to probably do a little bit more work to find out what my favorite beverages are, so that if I end up purchasing the vehicle, they're stocked in the trunk, right? So the sales professional at the dealership thinks about that opportunity differently. So they do a little bit more work, if you will, trying to make certain, going back to the point we've been talking about, making it faster for them. They're not bringing Ron in thinking, how can I make this slower? That's not going on, right? And so all of those kind of subtle things that are tied into process but map back to software is why the 80% shown appointment is turning in. Unless the credit is an issue, you've got a deal there. You've got a sold customer that's coming.
I know I've witnessed a nice little uptick in the communications directly from the DealerRater piece or within cars.com, where the sales or the customer is choosing who they want to work with. And I know there's a couple services out there that allow you to plug something like that right into your website.
Yep.
Yeah. Ron can speak to that for sure.
Yeah, we're just carrying that through into our VDPs and allowing a customer to kind of have that same type of experience where they can look at, some of your product specialists. You can sort that down, whether it be by like specific models that, maybe those guys just know and are dialed in with, or if you want to highlight some of your top performers, a lot of different ways you can do that, but it's a great incentive for the salespeople. And it also, I think, carries through like that theme of trust and transparency that we were talking about directly onto that VDP experience.
Yeah, I like that. I saw a beta screenshot for that from you guys probably a year and a half ago, probably about a year and a half. So it's nice to hear that you guys are rolling that out.
Yeah, I always talk to dealers too about, we're pushing all this software. We're talking about all these changes in process and digital retailing and all those types of things. I think there's always still going to be some human element to this business, right?
For sure. And to answer maybe Chris's question earlier, what can you do to promote your salespeople?
That's right.
Of course, DealerRater or any type of review service out there that allows the consumer to actually engage with that particular salesperson is a huge plus. But would it make sense to actually use some more real estate on your dealership website to highlight your salespeople?
Yeah, and because you can't highlight all of them, you create a bit of competition there, but just by default, which is a really good thing.
Yeah, I agree. I agree.
A really good thing to let the team know that, hey, if you want if you want that type of exposure online on our website, you've got to do a great job and solicit and get positive reviews organically from the customers that you take care of.
Yeah. Years ago, I would run a monthly contest, and whoever got the most positive reviews within that time period, they had a banner on their homepage. On the homepage of the dealership website, I had a banner made with their photo, their contact information, all that good stuff.
I like it.
Right there on the homepage.
You know what else?
Yeah, what better advertisement, can you do for yourself than make sure you get some great reviews, and then everyone that comes to the dealership website, your photo is right there in front of them, clicking to your reviews.
Yep. And you know what else feels like to the customer is almost like Jack, if I was going to buy a car from your store, right? Like you would take me as that referral and give it to your top performer and say, hey, take good care of Ron, right?
Yeah.
Like that type of experience is amazing, but every customer can't just tap into that naturally. But if we give them, some sort of way to, pick out that person or to highlight that individual, on the site, I think it just creates a little bit more trust in the customers, going into the car buying process, which is naturally intimidating, right? Like we still have some negative stigmas we have to overcome. I think we're doing a really good job of it. But I think if we can promote the people that do the best job of doing that, that's where we're going to win.
An additional benefit, and we rarely talk about this, but an additional benefit of that tool, guys, is it reduces turnover at the store. Because if someone,
that's a great point,
right? Like, and that's in the data set too. The dealers that are utilizing that tool and solution see 50% less turnover on their staff because they suggest they're not burnt. You know, I've built up a portfolio and a book of business, and you're now promoting me on the site. I mean, you're going to have good month, bad month. That is going to happen, but I'm less likely to just pack up my stuff and go to the next shop down the street.
Well, yeah, I mean, you're selling more cars. The grass isn't going to be as green on the other side. And the fact that you've got thousands of reviews, maybe hundreds of reviews, you leave that dealership.
You can't take it with you.
Yeah. Yeah. Right. Yeah. I would, when I worked for a large dealer group, I trained on, that was one of the big training points of getting the dealerships into the review business.
You know, it's in the time we've got, I wanted to make sure, Alex, that because I know we always want to try to bring something that's super topical to these conversations. And I think we were talking about this yesterday. We really want to make sure that dealers understand that another consequence that's unintentional, but it's a real thing with regards to COVID, is the shortage on the new car inventory. Dealers just don't have, there is this dip, right? There's this delta of inventory because everybody I talked to had a great May. May came back like gangbusters. And there is a shortage on availability on new car. And then you layer in consumer behavior and what's going on with the economy. If a dealer is not in the used car business right now and doesn't have a very savvy model via digital retailing to switch customers over to CPO, then you're asleep.
For sure.
We really just make sure that that when you talk about digital retailing, we often kind of think, oh, that's for new cars. Well, that's nonsense. It absolutely is a part of a used car process as well. And our solution certainly does that, but almost all of the others do as well. And you've got to keep that as an option because it's a car you could move a customer to, not only that's available, but you could probably make more money.
Well, speaking of making money, supply and demand, demand's high, supply's low. Raise your prices.
Yep.
The other thing is
especially with used cars
strategy. There's a lot there that I think just kind of gets glanced over. We always like to kind of highlight, running some Facebook ads, tying that into your messaging platform, and allowing customers to engage and potentially get like a trade value right through that platform, or even tapping into some of your first party data. We talk about like looking in your ROs that have been declined over a certain dollar amount, right? Like naturally, if customers like saying, hey, I don't want to pay for the maintenance on this thing, or I don't want to do X, Y, Z, it might be a good opportunity to have a conversation with them or start advertising to them about trading that car in, or at least getting a value for it. All that's going to help you replenish your inventory a little bit more effective and more cost efficient.
I just think I know a lot of the third-party marketplaces, we certainly did a lot of work to try to give relief to our clients, and a lot of dealers actually paused their spend because of what was going on in the industry. But whether it's on cars.com or other third-party marketplaces that you're working with, I think in the window that we have, who knows what the fall and the winter is going to look like. But I think in the next 90-day selling window that we have in our industry, there is not a better time to make sure that you've got a robust presence on the third-party marketplace of your choosing, because it's based on what we've got in inventory. It's critically important.
Yeah.
Well, speaking of time, if there's some things that we've already talked about, used cars and switching from new to CPO and whatnot, but are there any other things that dealers should be prioritizing at the moment to get through the rest of this year, maybe even the next year?
Yeah, I can start there. What I would recommend, I think, right now, every dealer would agree that their greatest investment is in their people. And I've always been, fascinated with like the different backgrounds and interests and education and hobbies of the folks that end up working in this industry. And I think over the next year and into the future, I think it's going to be critical to kind of lean into those folks a little bit more and really work on like building on their strengths, improving on their weaknesses, and just really like, helping them find some things that they're passionate about and getting them engaged with all of these different tools that you may have and really helping them build a new skill set. I think fortune is going to favor the bold here. And I think the dealers that really lean in and build a robust process, lean in and focus on training and developing their staff in new ways are going to be the ones that see the most success coming out of this.
For sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, and the only thing I would, you gave me one too, I mean, that was perfectly stated by Ron. I would just say video. I mean, you've got to get fearless with regards to and comfortable and have the tools and the technology to do what we are doing here today.
So when you say video, you're talking about video communications one-to-one.
Exactly right. I'm not talking about video walkarounds on the cars because that's been around in our industry for a long time. And dealers should still keep doing that as well. But it's how do you communicate using these tools with your customers? I just think that for the determinate future, that's going to be a very critically important communication tool that we've all got to get really comfortable at. So do you have a process? Do you have software? Do you have the availability to, whether if they transfer conversations into an app on their phone, so you can track and measure what's going on in a secure way and you don't lose the trail there of everything that you're doing with your consumers? I think that's another, it's a very specific piece of this, but I think it's got continuity through that entire string. And maybe it ties back to what Ron is just saying. Like if I'm going to invest in our staff to make sure that people still want to come in and work in this great industry of ours, I want to give them current, relevant, modern tools to use. And if I said to a new employee, yeah, we fully endorse you chatting over video with the customers that are shopping online, that's a different gig. All right.
So maybe we'll get to a time where, you know, the traditional up bus went away, but maybe we'll have some type of video chat up bus.
The digital up.
Yeah.
Well, gentlemen, it's always a pleasure. I know I have a few more questions, but I think I'm going to hold off and get with you, maybe give you some opportunity to get some more stats, then have you guys back on real soon.
Yeah, because then I get my veteran trophy, right, Alex? So I come back.
Well, someone commented earlier about what the SNL does. You get a jacket or something like that after 5 times. We're going to have to come up with a Dealer Refresh jacket or some type of trophy.
Yeah. Maybe we'll get Darren a hat.
I gotta do something, right?
We'll put something
Speaking
together.
of the person who put that out there, it was Jake, by the way. But we'd be remiss if we didn't bring up the Dealer Inspire blog and all the great articles that are being shared there and everything that's happening. I think Jake would kill us if we didn't say that.
Yeah, there is just to your point, Alex, there is a tremendous amount of people that are doing great work to share information, data trends that we're seeing across the entire country, to give dealers insights as to what's going on outside of their market, right? Because we're all working really, really hard. We may have the blinders on and our head down, trying to figure out a way to maintain profitability and enhance processes in our stores. So context of what's going on outside of Maryland for you, Jeff, like it's important to kind of know these things.
For sure. Well, gentlemen, thank you so much.
No, this was a good one for me. I had no idea we'd be talking about where to go buy your best guns and how to stop alcohol. I didn't know that was.
Well, we were talking about premium experience.
Oh, this was a good one.
It's just the latest thing on my mind.
Now you know, buy your guns in Maryland.
Yeah, no, don't. It's too damn difficult. It's not easy at all.
Stock the trunk.
It takes like a month and a half.
No, we always enjoy it. Guys, thanks so much for having us. We appreciate the work you guys continue to do out there for your clients.
Thank you so much, man.
Nice.
Thank you,
All
gentlemen.
right. See you guys.